Hi, I'm Joan Newcomb, and today's morning musings is guidance and prayer. I've been doing a series of morning musings, and I have been using my blog, Adventures in Density and Effort, as inspiration. And so, what I do is I read the blog post, and as I wrote it several years ago, and the world has changed a whole lot since then. If I come across anything that is outdated or I have more information about it, I will interrupt myself and give you the most recent information that I have. And then at the end, if necessary, I will do a summary based on this information and what's going on in the world today. And also, I will have some specials for you, so stay tuned to the end to see what they are. Guidance and prayer. I don't pray, at least not in the way I assume people pray, although I do enjoy standard prayers like St. Francis and the Serenity Prayer. I just have a metaphysical approach to prayer, of course. I see it as focusing energy more than communicating with the divine. For instance, the Lord's Prayer from a mystical viewpoint is actually helping run energy through your chakras. Okay, so I'm going to stop myself right there because having gone through a consciousness shift, I feel like our physical forms are all being upgraded. And so if you look under the hood of an all electric vehicle, it's not going to look like a gasoline powered engine. So, yes, the Lord's Prayer has a mystical standpoint. If you think about that, there's Eastern and Western mysticism, and the Christian mystics did have a strong influence on the development of these prayers. If you recite the Lord's Prayer, something energetically is going on at the same time. It just would feel different, at least to me now, because chakras are different than they used to be, and it's not really about running energy anymore. Things happen a lot more instantaneously now. I'm going to mix my metaphors because if you think about the early cartoons, think about Steamboat Willie, what that looked like. And then if you now look at CGI now and how realistic things are, that is how we have evolved as consciousness, and reality has become a lot more embodied and therefore more physically real, and change can happen more instantaneously as well. I've gotten way off track. Let me see where I was with the blog post on prayer. My communication with God or the universe is more casual. It usually starts with my saying, "Hey, you." And I don't ask for anything, although sometimes I request clarity on things. Okay, gonna interrupt myself there. My relationship with God has evolved tremendously as well. I actually have a hard time even saying that word because for me, it encapsulates a lot of historic misperception of what that energy is. So if you think about it, even God is a gendered term. There's God and there's goddess. And for me now, it's not even universe. So universe was a big transformation for me back then, but universe is still talking, hey, you is still something that's outside of yourself. And for me now, it's consciousness. And consciousness is everything. And consciousness is essentially me. So you should talk about your essential self, but now for me, it's just consciousness and everything is consciousness. And I am essentially consciousness. It's a completely different feeling. Okay, let's see where I was so many years ago. The other day, I was in a meeting and we were reading a story where the person prayed for guidance for her marriage. What a great idea. So, me being me, closed my eyes and shifted my focus, intending on a prayer for guidance too, and instead found myself relaxing into a greater awareness of the energy in the room. Things became brighter and sharper and clearer. And this is how I feel when I'm connected to Source. And that hasn't changed. When I am connected to myself as consciousness, everything does come into sharper focus and clearer, brighter colors. What kept running through my head was the phrase sought through prayer and meditation to increase our conscious contact with God, praying only for God's will for us and the guidance to carry that out, which is the 11th step. I thought that was an interesting response to a request for guidance for one's marriage, except that I have been aware of wanting to focus more on my partnership with Source, in which case it was a pretty clear answer. Then I felt a little resistance praying for God's will for me, but that's because of the language. Anytime I've aligned my will with Source, the higher will, I felt much better and in agreement with whatever is going on at the time. I thought about the power to carry that out and how it was similar to the Serenity's prayers, courage to change the things I can, which I've always considered, the things I can change is me my perception and my actions within this reality. Courage and power. When I'm aligned with Source, my energy feels clearer. I feel empowered, inwardly empowered rather than dominantly powerful. Writing this, I recognize that my resistance was my little ego wanting to run the show. It's the Chihuahua thinking that it's a Mastiff. It's a mini will with a Napoleon complex. That can be still pretty accurate. My current growth phase concerns de-energizing patterns in the morphic field that have been blocking my experience as spirit. My little will thinks they're real, so I end up battling with windmills, which only solidifies them or brings more experience that reinforces them. So without going formally down on my knees, I've coming to see that my prayer is being answered. I was wanting navigational tips, but the guidance I'm getting is to focus on my inner connection with Source. It feels like what I want to do is to turn within, and the patterns will naturally evaporate from lack of attention. So that is pretty accurate, in which, when you go into any kind of form of prayer, it's taking your focus, centering on a more, for lack of a better word, spiritual level of communication. And where it doesn't work is when, instead of focusing on a spiritual level of communication, you're looking at the thing that's the problem. And that's the problem. It needs to be fixed. You need to fix that. It needs to be fixed. And you can just see that's not a very spiritual way of looking at things. My experience now, which I wouldn't formally call prayer, but it does happen to be communication, but it's more communication with myself as consciousness. I know when I can just take my focus off the thing that seems to be a problem, because focusing on it solidifies it as real. I think I already said that. It de-energizes it, but it also gives me a bigger and broader perspective of what's going on. And as I said, if I'm aligned with myself as consciousness, so aligning my little will with my greater will as consciousness, I'm in agreement with everything that is going on. I'm no longer fighting or tilting at windmills. And it really is just letting reality reorganize in my favor. Back to the blog. Notice that my experience with prayer is more empathic and unstructured. It's intuitive rather than intellectual. I feel it more than I think it. Notice what your natural tendency is. Are you visual rather than verbal? Maybe your form is in drawing and your guidance comes through mental images rather than words. Are you musical? Maybe your connection with the divine is in playing some good tunes. And when a song goes through your head, the lyrics could be communication from Source. Have fun with this and see what happens. So I do feel like I've been summarizing as I go along. We have all gone through a huge shift in consciousness. Some people like to describe it as going to the 5D. What I notice is that our physical forms are upgrading and we are able to bring in ourselves as consciousness more than ever before. And it is naturally reorganizing ourselves inwardly as well. So chakras are different now, energy centers are different now. We are more embodied, or we have the ability to be more embodied, which makes us also more highly sensitive. And this is all really about focusing differently. It's okay for you as your personality and you as your physical body to communicate with yourself as consciousness. In fact, it's a great idea to do that, because sometimes as consciousness, I'm way out in the future, or I'm in the all that is, and I have to remember the horse that I'm riding needs water and brushing down and a good blanket and rest for the night, maybe some good hay as well. As I'm navigating this reality, it's all about what's the best way to communicate with the horse about the direction that I'm going in, and the way for the horse to be able to communicate with me. Anyway, you can play with my suggestions, but also if you've had any experiences yourself with a transformed experience of prayer, or how it's transformed your reality, go ahead and leave a comment below. I love reading your comments. If you like these videos, please like them and share them. You can also click the bell icon. So clicking the bell icon and the thumbs up icon gives the message to YouTube to share them with more people in the world. So it's a great way of getting this important information out to as many people as possible. And also, if you'd like to have a free sample of one of my consciousness techniques, click on the link below for the skybox technique. It'll give you a bigger perspective of the world, like I was just talking about. And if you want to know more, my website is joan-newcomb.com. I do personal sessions where I take a look at the essence of who you are and what's going on in your life today, and I can answer any questions that you might have. And also, if you want to learn how to do this for yourself, I have a coaching special going on right now where you can have individual sessions with me, and I give you consciousness techniques specifically curated for you so that you can transform your life. So go to my website, joan-newcomb.com, and I'll see you tomorrow with another Morning Musings.